I went and bought this Champion 7-ton gas log splitter, and the reason I bought this is I've had one before, this exact same model. I don't have any videos of it, but I do have a few pictures. It was the first log splitter I ever had, and it was awesome. I love that thing. And even though it's a 7-ton, I thought it split way more than that as far as you know, hard pieces of wood, but it split pretty decent for the size that it was. But I found one on Amazon, decided to buy it, and this is what came. They had some weird shipping company bring it to me with a straight truck, and it was just this little box that they had, and it is heavy. It's like 150 pounds, but it's not a huge box or anything, so I'm kind of surprised that FedEx or UPS or somebody didn't bring it to me. But as you can see, the box is all chewed up, so I'm hoping that a vital bag of parts didn't fly out of this at some point, or anything's damaged. I have no idea, but I'm gonna unbox this thing, see what I have for parts, and then hopefully I have everything so I can start putting it together. This thing's really beat up. Terrible how bad this packaging is. So surprisingly, I think everything is here. So far I have not noticed anything missing. This is the hydraulic reservoir and the splitting frame. Got your cylinder with your hoses, your valve. Got the engine with the pump on it. This is just a little cardboard thingy that came with it. Here we got the manual, funnel, hoses, all the hardware, handle, the pushing thing with the carrier, and then this is just something that rests on the ground. The rear frame that the engine goes on, and both wheels. And I think that's really all there is to it. One thing I noticed is the model of this that I had years ago actually had it had a 2-inch truck hitch thing welded on the side of it, where you could actually put it in the back of your truck hitch and pin it in there, and then your splitter would be up off the ground a little bit and it'd be secured to something. And this one obviously doesn't have that on there. So I don't know if that was like an old design Champion had and then they discontinued it and came out with a new one. I have no idea. But other than that, everything looks pretty much the same as my other one did. So it's got this tiny little 80cc 4-cycle engine on there, which if this is anything like my first one, it's going to be really hard starting. Mine did not start very good. Even if it was warm outside, it was really weird. It like lost its prime or something and is hard to get going. But honestly, my Husky did that a couple weeks ago. Before I sold it, I couldn't get it to start, so I had to throw some gas in the intake to get it to pop off. But that's engines for you, really. I guess if anybody wants to buy one of these, I'll show how I assemble this. So the first step is flipping the main beam slash hydraulic reservoir upside down. And then back here where the fittings are for the hydraulics, you put this plate on here and use these 4 bolts that have a, I believe, 8mm Allen head. I just used my T-handle from Harbor Freight, 8mm, and tightened all 4 of these down. Now I'm moving on to the next step. And the next step is the wheels, which in this case I'm going to use these crappy little pins that they give you, but I have a assortment where all my other equipment's stored at. I have an assortment that has much better pins than these, so I'm going to swap those out later. But these here I'm just going to put, they come with washers and pins, 1 washer and 1 pin on each side. Can't really get any easier than that. These pins completely suck though. These things are so cheap. I'll bend them so they don't fall off. Here's one. And these are solid tires, so there's no air in them, which is nice because that'd be a stupid size tire to have air in it. Okay, so those are done. All right, the next step is putting this little doohickey on. It's basically just the support that holds this thing upright. And this is, I guess it doesn't matter what way it goes, but I think in this case it goes this way. So that's how I'm gonna do it. And this is a 14mm nut and bolt. It's not like I have a million impact drivers that I could use for this right now. Don't know why I'm using wrenches, but alright, that's done. The next step, flip this thing over. As you can see, I already put the sliding, it's not a wedge, it's just a pushing plate thing for the wedge. Anyway, now we gotta put the engine on. That is an incredibly light little tiny engine. It's funny. Now I'm not really sure what bolts I'm supposed to use. Check the directions, I guess. There's only 2 kinds that are left, so small bolts and large bolts. So I'm assuming the large bolts would be for securing the cylinder in there. I think. Yep, those are it. All right, using a 14mm socket. Now this thing is going to be vibrating, so you want them tight, but I don't want to over tighten these. Strip anything since it's Chinese. Pretty sure Harbor Freight sells a 79cc engine, a Predator. So I guess if you ever had to, you could always put a different engine on one of these. Alright, that's on. Alright. Now for this doohickey, we have these little tiny metal plates that go on the outside here and they hold the pins in for the cylinder. This steel is not as thick as I remember it being. I wonder if these models aren't different, because the one that I had seemed beefier than this, but maybe I'm wrong. It was a long time ago, so I could be. Slide it in like that. And these are 17 millimeter bolts. There's kind of a flatter side on this, so I'm going to put that flatter side towards the thingy. I'm not going to get these super tight until I get this hooked up. This one here is cross-threaded, it seems like. There it goes. Dodged a bullet there. Alright. Hopefully this is a 14 as well, or 17 I mean, and it is. Cool. And this is a lock nut right here. So we're just going to push that in there. Do what we need to do. There we go. Perfect. Throw that on. Could be using my electric impact, but whatever. Guess you're less likely to break stuff if you're doing it by hand. Now this doesn't have to be super tight. You want a little bit of flexibility with it. Loosen it up just a tad. There we go. There we go. All right, now tighten all these down. And after I run this a couple times, I'll probably retighten everything, so I'm not gonna go super tight with anything yet. Okay. Now, this stuff, which is super greasy, that's terrible. Can't even tear this off, it's so greasy. There we go. Jeez. Okay, this hose here obviously goes here because there's nowhere else that it could go. So it did give you thread tape, so I'm assuming I should use it. Okay. Tighten this too. Now I gotta tighten this. Same thing, there's grease all over it. It's hard to grab. Little thread tape. A little cold, so I gotta bend it here. There we go. Everything is covered in grease. Okay. All right. Now for this, Now for this little return line, low pressure return line. Very easy to put on, comes with these little clamps. Let's see. Everything's frozen, so nothing wants to work right. Alright, that was a pain. See if we can't do the other side. I don't know if it's because the hose is froze or what, but you got to have this stuff on all the way, otherwise it'll leak. That was the farthest I could get that on there. And this is just a low pressure return, so I'm not too worried about it. But I do want to get this hose all the way up against that side of the pump, so it's on that fitting all the way. All right. Got a handy dandy little handle here. I seriously can't believe some of these pins that they give you. They're just so dinky, I don't even know why they even waste time sending these. Put something real in there. It'll break at the drop of a hat. That's ridiculous. Okay. As far as tools that I used this pair of pliers here to try and get that clear low pressure return tube put on, and a screwdriver for the clamps for that tube. I used an 8mm Allen head wrench here, T-handle. Use this to put pins in. Then I used a 17mm and a 14mm wrench, or I also used a 14mm and 17mm socket, and then a crescent wrench. And it came with some paperwork, a couple little things here. Apparently you can get a free t-shirt if you do a review or something. Came with a funnel, but no oil, which is kind of funny. Maybe it had oil and it fell out of the box during shipping. That could have been a possibility. Came with a spark plug thingy here, but no, it didn't come with the cross piece. So maybe the oil and the little cross piece for this spark plug tool fell out of the box. I don't know. I'm not too upset about that. Oil's cheap. I can get it anywhere. So, alrighty. So that's all put together. Wasn't too bad. Like I said, this model is a little bit different from the one that I had years ago. But it's pretty much, I mean, it's the same thing more or less, just different. But looks good to me. I have everything on there pretty tight. They did not give me any engine oil. So I have to get some of that, some 10W30, throw it in there. Not sure how much it takes. I got 2 gallons of AW32 hydraulic oil. I forget how many liters the manual said this holds. I think it's like 6 or 7 or something like that. It just below 2 gallons. So I gotta fill that up, and I already know, before I even start this thing and even use this thing, I already know that there's a problem with this model where this wedge is way too skinny, so it doesn't actually split your wood apart all the way. It just kind of like cuts into them. So I need to weld on some fins on here. That way when the wood goes through, it actually pushes the pieces apart, because that is way too thin. So I know that's a problem. And then the other problem this has is when this cylinder is all the way out, the end of this ram stops like right here. And then you don't split your whole piece of wood. So what a lot of people do is they cut like a 1.5 or 2 inch wide, you know, piece of wood, and they stick it in there and use that to push everything through. That way it gets the whole log up to the end of the wedge here. So I know that's going to be a problem. So those are things that I have to fix at some point, so it's not going to split perfect right away. But I am looking forward to putting fluid in this thing and trying it out. It's not like a super heavy duty splitter, which I don't need one anyways. That's, you know, I'm not splitting huge rounds. I cut a lot of small stuff. I don't know why. I always end up cutting up tiny trees or small branches. I never have anything that's huge, and that's fine with me. I don't need to split anything big. But this thing is pretty cool. It's just a little bit stronger than what I can do by hand, because I suck at splitting by hand. And I also enjoy actually like splitting with a splitter for some reason. I always find it relaxing. But anyway, so got everything on there tight and assembled. It's a little dirty. It's really greasy from shipping. I'm not sure why. I need to clean that up a little bit. But before I even put oil in this thing, I need to get this hose on farther. I had a heck of a time. I messed with that for a while, trying to get this hose all the way up against the side of this pump here. You can see it's about 1 centimeter away. So I need to keep going with that, otherwise it's gonna leak. That seems to be a common complaint on the internet. So anyway, that's how it looks. Pretty excited to use this thing. Unfortunately, I can't use it just yet, but I will have a video putting fluid in it and starting it up for the first time. Run a couple of practice pieces through it, and then eventually I'll do the mods. I'll fix that wedge and maybe look into making something, maybe an extender or something for this, because I could unbolt this and stick another piece of metal in there. That way I don't have to have a sacrificial piece of wood to push things through properly. But alrighty, well, stay tuned for more on this thing. Thanks for watching.